Hey guys, and welcome back to another edition of my advanced tips and tricks series. If you haven't seen any of the other videos, definitely go and check them out as they're some of the best and most popular videos on my channel. For this particular video, I have 12 different tips and tricks that will help you in every aspect of your gameplay, from building and editing to even some new settings tricks that you can use to get an advantage in game. The format will be the same as always. I'll show you the tip or trick, explain exactly how to do it, why it works, and then finally show an in-game example if applicable. We have a lot of stuff to cover though, so let's start with a cheeky building trick you can use to get a shot on an opponent in a build fight. I talked about this trick in one of my other advanced tips and tricks videos, but I forgot to mention the most important part of it. The trick is when you're building up for height against an opponent, you can place a cone in front of your ramp instead of building up and over them. This is called the Dimmadome, and it's so effective because when your opponent is building up and trying to place a ramp, the cone actually prevents them from doing so, and they can't build up over you. I'm showing it in a pretty simple setting, but in an actual build fight, you use it after doing 90s or 180 when you're higher on your ramp than your opponent is on theirs, like in these clips from Liquid Scented. This will definitely take your opponent off guard because they can't build a ramp, they have no way to protect themselves, and they weren't able to get high ground. Most of the time, people expect you to just build up over them, but if you Dimmadome them, you get a free shot. Two variations I saw of the Dimmadome were to place a wall in front of the cone after you get the cone down, so even if your opponent expects the Dimmadome, they'll see a wall and try to build a separate way. That's when you can edit the wall and then get a shot off. Another variation is after you Dimmadome and shoot them, place two walls, then jump up, floor on top of the two walls, and then floor and cone in front of you. This way, if your opponent keeps building up for height, you already floored them and coned them, and you can just get an easy edit kill. Plus, if they build up a different way, you can just edit the cone you placed into a ramp to keep height. Here's a clip from Bugha utilizing both of these tricks. Second trick is a 200 IQ way to pressure your opponent when they're inside a 1x1. Go to any of the four corners of their box and then build a cone on the side. Then edit one of the corners so it's connected to the box like this. Now you have access to hit and replace your opponent's two walls, their cone, and their floor that's underneath their cone. It's basically impossible to defend against someone pressuring 4 different points of your turtle. From your opponent's point of view, they see everything around them being hit and replaced, so unless they go and expand to another 1x1, they're dead meat. The cone is also positioned, so if your opponent edits out of the box, you can jump up and floor them in yourself. No matter which way they go out, you can block them off and protect yourself. I originally found this trick from Atlantis Tux, so credit goes to him. Third on the list is another trick to outsmart someone who's turtling in a 1x1. As you pickaxe their wall, turbo build a ramp instead of a wall. When your opponent makes any type of edit, you can block their shot with the ramp you built, then edit the ramp for a free shot. Your opponent will think you're turbo building a wall while pickaxing it, so they'll edit it thinking they can kill you, but the whole time you've been turbo building the ramp and take them by surprise. This was found by Atlantis Khuna and is actually called the Khuna Classic. Fourth trick is a nice way to get a shot on someone when you're inside the 1x1 and your opponent is trying to take your floor after they already took your cone. What you can do is get close to the wall by your opponent and then edit the two floor pieces above you, jump up, and you can get a sweet angle on your opponent while they can only see your head for about 2 seconds. Your opponent literally won't even be able to see you when you're pressed up against the wall. Then they don't have the time to react or build as you jump up out of nowhere and hit them with your pump. I saw this from Tfue, who uses it a ton in game because people are constantly replacing his cones due to his ping. So if you have high ping yourself, I definitely suggest using this. Fifth trick is why you should be using cones to catch yourself instead of floors. Floors may seem like the best way to catch yourself, but surprisingly they're not. Cones have a much larger reach, and you can use them to connect to other builds and catch yourself from much farther away than with floors. Now, if you ever get shot down from high ground, instead of catching yourself with a ramp or a floor and then trying to build back up, you can catch yourself with a cone and then immediately build back up for height instead of falling to low ground. Credit for this trick goes to Boy. The next trick is an insane high ground retake that Bugha and Bizzle have been using. It starts with a normal scissor ramp up, and at the end of it, you'll cone the ramp above you, then jump up and floor below you and to either side, then place a ramp and another ramp above that connects from the cone that you just placed. After that, turn around, do a Tfue cone, and then continue scissor ramping up and finish it off with 90s or 180. The reason that I love this high ground retake is because of how clean and difficult it is, but it also combines 3 different advanced building techniques. The first is the change in direction as you scissor ramp up. Make sure you're flooring in between the 2 ramps so you can connect to another floor and then ramp up using the cone in the opposite direction. Then you use the Tfue cone, which I've showed you guys how to do in a different advanced tips and tricks video. Then you end it with a 1 jump 180, which is much faster than a normal slow 180. If you notice with a normal 180, you jump up and turn around to place the walls, then jump up again to get on the ramp. With a 1 jump 180, you run to the top of the ramp, turn around while still running, and then build the wall and ramp to get high ground. Altogether, this high ground retake has a little of everything and is extremely effective, as evidenced by the fact that 2 of the best players in the world, Bugha and Bizzle, consistently use it. The switch of directions in the beginning will throw anyone tracking or building above you off, the Tfue code will keep you protected, and the quick 180 will let you contest for high ground. Here's a slightly different variation of it from Bugha, and if you don't catch it, don't worry because I'm going to slow it down. For the 7th trick, I want to let you guys know why so many pro players like Mongraal are using colorblind filters now. The exact colorblind setting they're using is called Deuteranope. This graphic from Reddit actually shows all the different colorblind settings, and you can see that Deuteranope makes it much easier to see into the zone. This isn't a new trick, but a majority of pro players are using it now. Thanks to these clips from Code Life, you can see how useful it is compared to playing on no colorblind settings. Anything from Deuteranope 5 and up will make it possible for you to see into the zone really easily. This is broken in competitive play when the last zones close in and people are in the storm, or just when you're fighting and getting pushed in zone. 8th trick is a new phasing exploit that was used in the World Cup qualifiers. The technique is that you run up to the wall your opponent is turtling behind and hit it once, then build a ramp, half edit the ramp, and then position yourself under it. Jump forward and break the wall so you phase through because the ramp that you just jumped into pushes you forward. Even when your opponent is turbo building with 0 ping, they can't stop you from phasing through the wall. You really don't need to do the half edit on the ramp, but building the ramp will protect you if your opponent makes a quick edit. Just make sure that you're jumping from under the ramp so it pushes you forward. I'm not exactly sure who originally found this, but it was used in EU a ton, and I saw EpikWhale, who came in first in NA West solos, he used it a lot as well. I also learned the 9th trick from EpikWhale. The trick is, instead of rotating in scrims by boxing up, then editing and continuing that way to block any fire from the top, the side, or above, what you can do is place a floor, then turn and look down in the opposite direction you want to protect yourself from and build a ramp. Rotating this way is just as effective because you're covered from the top, the bottom, and the side, and you save an extra 20 mats on each build compared to boxing up. So on a full rotate, you could save something like 100 to 300 mats. This is huge in tournaments like the World Cup qualifiers where you need as many mats as possible. Even if you get shot at, you can just build a wall or a floor to protect yourself even more. EpikWhale and his duo Seal Matt use this whenever they rotate. Another great way to use your ramps like this is if you're taking fire from an opponent in a 1x1 and you can't build a floor or roof because your opponent has replaced them. By looking up and turbo building a ramp, you can protect yourself from gunfire, and it gives you enough time to edit out instead of sitting there with your pants down trying to build a cone when you can't. Here's EpikWhale again utilizing this in game. 10th trick is an extremely situational but genius way to outplay an opponent. The trick is when your opponent is breaking into your 1x1 from the top, edit a door to the side, expand the 1x1 out, and then jump on the top of the door. If you do it quick enough, your opponent will follow you into the other 1x1 and have absolutely no idea where you are. The whole time though, you were sitting on top of the door out of sight. If any of you guys can pull this off in a match, definitely send it to me on Twitter. I originally found this on Reddit from a user named S118 who used it in this clip here. Second to last trick is a different variation of a trick I showed back at the beginning of Season 8. The original trick is that you can use a hoverboard or an ATV off a geyser, and when you jump off, you won't take fall damage. If you've watched Tfue's streams recently, he always uses it when he rotates on ATVs so he can jump off whenever or just jump on top of an enemy like in this clip.
Oh my god, there he is. This is perfect. Chat, this is for you, buddy. Oh my god, that was my ass.
The variation I want to show is with balloons and tires. With just balloons, if you're high in the air and you fall, you'll obviously take fall damage, but when you have balloons and bounce yourself off a tire into the air, you can actually let go from any height and you won't take any fall damage. If people don't notice you, you can actually go pretty far on the map and use it to land on enemies like Brandon does here in this crazy clip. And for our 12th and final trick, I wanted to show you guys that you can actually use the flint knock pistol to knock people off their gliders. This is really useful in endgames of scrims and tournaments when people are trying to take high ground. Not only can you do damage to them, but you can make them fall to their death by knocking off their gliders. Overall, these advanced tips and tricks should definitely help you guys win more fights and outplay your opponents. If you enjoyed this video and I taught you something, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications. Thank you to everyone who's using my code, and with the new season coming up, make sure you're using a creator code to buy the battle pass. It doesn't even have to be mine, just make sure you're using one, but I did hear that code itsJerian will give you an extra 200 IQ. Otherwise, that's it from me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.